why is the sky a bigger deal than the earth? Well, because we're on the earth, we're not in the sky. Right? So we should have more concern about what's happening on the earth. The thing is, on the earth, graves are tearing open, mountains are turning into powder, and all this stuff is happening, right? Oh, like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And then the angels start coming down, right? And now you realize, because first you're like, Malaha, what's wrong with the earth? What's going on? What's going on? And people are walking around drunk. وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى. They're not drunk, but they're walking around like they're drunk. But when they see the sky tear open, it's not just that the sky tears open, it's like the unseen dimension has now become seen, and the army of angels is coming down, and you realize, oh, that's what's going on. Man, compared to that, the earthquakes and the oceans boiling, this was a smaller problem. The angels coming down is a much bigger problem. And that's why that's the overwhelming problem.
You're watching just a short clip from our longer, deeper look of Surah Al-Muzzammil. This full series is now being released exclusively on Bayyinah TV, featuring a very deep dive into the surah's key themes, verse-by-verse breakdowns and lessons, which you can now watch on demand via your mobile or on the web, or even cast to your living room TV now and watch with your family.
Having said that, we move to another. By the way, stress. When someone's under stress, we say they're under a lot of pressure or there are a lot of burdens on them, which goes back to the theme that this surah had, which was about being under a lot of burdens. And in fact, even the reference to a baby takes us back to the beginning of the surah very beautifully, because babies are wrapped up in blankets. Right? So everything just comes together really, really beautifully if you're just paying attention to what's happening, you know? And then, actually, when we get there today, ayah number 19 is one of the most amazing ayat of this surah. But before that, we even have to understand this next thing that Allah is describing. As-sama'u munfatirun bihi. The sky is ripping open because of it. The sky is ripping open because of Judgment Day. As if to say, Judgment Day is this huge event, right? And for this event to begin, the curtains have to be opened. And what are the curtains? The sky. The sky is being torn open to make way for Judgment Day. So what's happening on the ground is it's so stressful, and what's happening in the sky is tearing open. Other scholars, because the word fatar has to do with tear, it also has to do with beginning. Like it's beginning to tear open. Like, so it's Allah is describing the initial moments of Judgment Day. That's important also because the baby has just been born. Wildan is newborns. Well, newborns. And futur is actually the first moment of something. That's why when Allah says Fatirus samawat, is Badi'us samawat, the one who initiated the skies, who created them for the first time. Iftar is called iftar from the same word because it's the first thing you eat. That's why it's called iftar, right? So the first of something. And when somebody starts to dig a well, the first time they stick the shovel in the ground to start digging the well, that's called fatar al-bi'r. Ibtada'a hafraha. Like they started digging the well. So the idea is the very initiation of the tear. Now I want you to just understand the imagery of a tear. Imagine something is being held together. Like imagine a bag, for example, is a bag. And you put your groceries in that bag. And you put more and more and more and more and more. The bag's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. What happens to the bottom? It starts tearing a little bit. You walk a little bit and then, the eggs are inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Right? So it's done with. So the point is, the more weight there is, the more the tear gets bigger. But it starts somewhere and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Judgment Day is coming. The angels are descending from the sky. Allah will describe in this series of surahs, the sky will turn into doors that are being opened up. وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا. And if you're going to keep up with the imagery, it is as if the burden of what is coming down, يَوْمًا ثَقِيلًا وَيَذَرُونَ وَرَاءَهُمْ يَوْمًا ثَقِيلًا. The weight of Judgment Day that is descending on the earth is so big that the sky itself is tearing open. So again, we come back to the imagery of burdens. Surah Al-Muzzammil, the word Al-Muzammil was about a burden. Qawlan thaqila was about a burden. Right? Wakil was about someone, you can't carry the burden, you're putting the burden for Allah Azza wa Jal to lift for you, to take that burden off of you. Multiple times we saw the imagery of a burden. And now we're seeing the sky is tearing open because the burden is too much for even the sky to carry, for this to drop on human beings, meaning Judgment Day itself. There's a subtle linguistic nuance in this ayah, and I'm going to read two things. I texted my teacher today, and because I was confused about it, but I'll read what he said at the end. This is Ustadh Mahmoud Abs. Make dua for him. He's awesome. He's my balagha teacher. But anyway, so the first thing I'll tell you is as-sama in Arabic, which means sky, generally is considered feminine. So tu'annath. So you say, for example, إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انفطرت وفتحت السَّمَاء. The at, the ta endings on the past tense verbs that you hear, these are all indications of the past tense, right? So, but in this ayah, we don't see as-sama'u munfatiratun biha. We see as-sama'u munfatirun bihi. So why is the masculine being used? The first answer to that question is there are two kinds. I don't want to give a full-on lecture of Arabic grammar, but some things you should be aware of, right? So in English, we have he, she, and it. And he is the masculine gender, the she is the feminine gender, and it has no gender, right? So it could be a camera is an it, the lights are an it, the carpet is an it. But there are other languages in which the it also has a gender, right? So like Spanish, for example, the it has a gender. So el libro and la biblioteca, for example. I believe French is like that. And Flemish is like that, right? So they have the it has two genders, right? Which is, again, it's easier if you have those kinds of language backgrounds. In Arabic, the it also has a gender. Now, this is different from the Farsi language, where there's only masculine and feminine, and in fact, there's not even masculine and feminine. U is for the guy, and U is for the girl, right? Umiaya, umiaya. Which U? Dokhtar ya bacha, kimya, namifamam. Okay, so, but it's all U. So that means he and she, same word, no problem. The Persians made it easier, you know. But the Arabic language has that. It's a distinction between he, she, and then the it masculine and the it feminine. But the basic idea is the word he and she are biological also, aren't they? Right? He is for a male and she is for a female. But you know, the sun is feminine in Arabic, but that doesn't mean the sun is a female. And I told you yesterday that the wine is feminine and the staff is feminine. Remember that? The staff is feminine in Arabic, but that's not because the staff is a girl, right? And the moon is masculine not because the moon is a boy. You know? That's not the reason. The sun is not feminine because you get burnt by it. That's not why it's feminine. And the moon is not masculine because he hangs out at night. That's not the reason. But anyway, the point is that when you have these, we call them fake feminines in my grammar class, right? When you have these fake feminines, you're not committed to respecting the fake feminine. So you could say ash-shamsu tali' and you could say ash-shamsu tali'atun, and they're both correct. You could say tala'a ash-shams and you can say tala'at ash-shams. Both of them. So you can use the it that is masculine and you can also use the it that is feminine for mu'annath sama'i, for something that the Arabs just started using, right? So from that sense, in the grammatical sense, as-sama'u munfatirun bihi is halal. There's no problem. Because it's mu'annath sama'i, it's not an issue. But grammar is not the only thing we use to understand language. Grammar is just the base. Above grammar is balagha, and a huge part of balagha is communication psychology. Nowadays we can call it communication psychology. Subtle things you say and you mean something by them, right? You take a little bit of a shot at somebody, right? If somebody, for example, says, "Hey, what you looking at?" and you say nothing. You said nothing. But you could mean by that I'm looking at you, which is the same as nothing. But you got to be a little bit deeper to understand that, right? That, or somebody might even think you said something. What you looking at? Nothing. I thought so. And they confirm that they are. So depends on your sort of linguistic skill, your communication psychology, what level do you get it? Do you not get it? Like it could just fly over your head, right? So there is this. It requires a certain level of sharp ear to be able to pick up on certain things when you're communicating, right? So from that lens, I want you to know that when there's a general expectation that the sky is feminine. There's a general expectation. So by using the masculine, even though grammatically it's allowed, that doesn't mean that the expected version was used. This is an unexpected usage. So something subtle is being done here. Another example of that is وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ. قَالَ نِسْوَةٌ. But what would the Arab expect usually? قالت نسوة. So the subtle thing that's being done there, for example, could be that women started talking about the scandal that happened between Yusuf alayhi salam and the wife of the minister. They started talking about this lady, right? But it wasn't just women. It was women and also some men that were talking, because women were talking to their husbands, and they were, people were talking. But mainly it was women talking, but not just women talking. So when you use the masculine, you are in a gentle way including more. In a subtle way, you're not limiting it to just the women. But you didn't come out and say men also. You gave them the main role, but you didn't limit it to them. You understand? So that's one of the ways what the mudhakkar does. It's a'am wa ashmal. So it's more general and it incorporates more. One of the other things that this does is that it's khilaf at-tabi'a. So the women were talking, but that's not a very, very ladylike thing to do. So they were doing something against their nature. The good nature of women is to be modest and to not talk about things that are not modest. So the fact that they were going against their nature is gently illustrated with the verb going against the noun's nature. You understand? So from that perspective, if you see as-sama'u munfatirun bihi, it's as if the sky on that day will go against its previous nature. Right? It's going to defy its norm. And it may be that because it's the masculine is more more encompassing, it's ashmal, that the sky tearing open may mean that it's not just the sky that's going to tear open. Graves are also going to tear open. Mountains are also going to tear open. Oceans are also going to tear open. But man, even though you're seeing mountains tear open and oceans tear open and castles tear open and buildings tear open, you're going to see cities tear open. Even though you're seeing everything tear open, when you look up and you see the sky tear open, you're going to forget about everything that's happening on the earth, because the main event is the sky tearing open, but the possibility of other things tearing open is left there with the masculine, as-sama'u munfatirun bihi. Right? So that's one possible indication of this gentle thing that's happened in this ayah because of Judgment Day. Then, because the thing is this, and why is the sky a bigger deal than the earth? Well, because we're on the earth, we're not in the sky. Right? So we should have more concern about what's happening on the earth. The thing is, on the earth, graves are tearing open, mountains are turning into powder, and all this stuff is happening, right? Oh, like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And then the angels start coming down. Right? And now you realize, because first you're like, malaha, what's wrong with the earth? What's going on? What's going on? And people are walking around drunk. وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى. They're not drunk, but they're walking around like they're drunk. But when they see the sky tear open, it's not just that the sky tears open, it's like the unseen dimension has now become seen, and the army of angels is coming down, and you realize, oh, that's what's going on. Man, compared to that, the earthquakes and the oceans boiling, this was a smaller problem. The angels coming down is a much bigger problem. And that's why that's the overwhelming problem. So it's almost as if this ayah is explaining the stress of the baby in the previous ayah. How will you protect yourself if you disbelieve in a day when baby's hair turns gray? Why will it turn gray? Because the sky is going to be torn open, right? So just like they are just born, and the mother literally tears open for the child to be born, now the sky is being torn open for a new world to be born. This world is dead and a new world is being born. The world of the akhirah is being born and brought into existence. So on this, I asked Ustadh Abs also his opinion on the word sama. So I'm going to read some things from him because he's so cool. So كلمة sama ليس عاقلا لذلك التذكير جائز. So first of all, it's not a biological masculine. Therefore, using the masculine is fine. كلمة سماء عند العرب تذكر وتؤنث. According to the Arabs, you can use masculine or feminine for the word سماء. أو كلمة منفطر مذكر وكلمة منفطر مذكرة لأنها على النسب كما قالوا امرأة حامل. So it could be just like they say about a woman who's pregnant. They say she's carrying حامل. They don't say حاملة because it's obvious. So they don't have to add the ta. أي ذات حمل. وامرأة مرضع أي ذات إرضاع. So a woman that's breastfeeding, they say مرضع, but they don't say necessarily مرضعة. That's why for a wife you can also use زوج. You don't have to actually use زوجة. Okay? وسماء منفطر أي ذات انفطار. Meaning the sky. منفطر meaning the sky that possesses, that now has tears. كلمة سماء اسم جنس. أو, that's the fourth opinion now. كلمة سماء اسم جنس جمعي مفرده سماءة. That this is actually a collective noun. Sama is not singular. It's actually an encompassing noun. And its singular is actually سماءة. سماءة. Was أو سماوة. Another singular of it is سماوة with a waw, because Hamza and waw get replaceable with each other in Arabic. وهاتان الكلمتان استخدمها العرب مثل شجر وشجرة. واسم الجنس الجمعي الأكثر فيه التذكير. So اسم الجنس, these kinds of words, usually if they're used in that meaning, it means it's used in the masculine. فالسماء مؤنثة تدل على السماء المعروفة والسماء مذكرة تدل على كل السماوات. So he's saying when you see the sama the word sky being used feminine, it's referring to the sky that we see. But when you see the sama being used in the masculine, it may be a reference to all of the skies together. So all seven sky, whatever is above, everything got included because this is اسم الجنس. وهذا الرأي هو الذي أرجحه. This is the opinion I prefer. فيكون معنى الآية, then according to this, the ayah meaning would mean كل السماوات منفطرة في يوم القيامة دون استثناء. All the skies that lie above will all tear open on Judgment Day with no exception. ويشمل أيضا السقف لأن العرب تسمى سقف البيت سماء. And it includes, the meaning also includes the roof. Every roof will tear open. Every roof will tear. This is pretty cool because, you know, when Judgment Day begins, some people might want to hide inside a building or inside a bunker or inside a cave or inside, you know, everything above you will tear open. There's not gonna be any I'm indoors and everybody else is outdoors. So it incorporates that too. إذن كل السماوات وكل الأبنية وكل ما يطلق عليه اسم سماء حقيقة أو مجازا سينفطر في هذا اليوم والله أعلم. Thank you so much, Ustadh Abs. So that means all the skies, all the buildings, and anything that you can consider above you will be torn open. You are entirely left exposed on Judgment Day. كان وعده مفعولا. His promise is meant to be fulfilled, or is as good as fulfilled. This last part of the ayah is actually the Quran describing a really beautiful concept in the Quran. Usually, only one other place we see وعدا مفعولا in Surah Al-Isra. كان وعدا مفعولا. That the Israelites experienced destruction, and Allah says that was a promise that was fulfilled. So maf'ul means something that got done. Something that has been acted on is maf'ul. Okay? So if I told you to do something, and you did it, I say, did you do it? You say, na'am, maf'ul. You could say maf'ul, meaning it got done. It got done. Now Allah is saying this is His promise, or its promise, has been done. That's what Allah is saying. So first of all, wa'duhu has two meanings. Wa'duhu has two meanings. It could mean the promise of Allah has already been fulfilled. That's one meaning. Or has already been acted on. The second meaning is the promise of Judgment Day, because the who could refer to Yawm al-Qiyamah. The promise of Judgment Day has been fulfilled. But that's confusing because it hasn't been fulfilled. It hasn't been acted on. It didn't happen yet. Right? Why kana wa'duhu maf'ulan, as if it's already done? This is Allah describing to us something about time. We live in basically 4 dimensions. Right? Length, width, depth, and time. These are the dimensions in which we exist. Right? And so if you think of these 4 dimensions, think of them like a bag. Right? And Allah Azza wa Jal is holding this bag. He's above these dimensions. Now, if you think of, I don't want to get too like quantum physics with you because I'm bad at it myself. But if you draw a line on a piece of paper, Just a line on a piece of paper. You're looking at it from above. Do you only see the beginning of the line, or do you see the whole line? At the same time, or one little bit at a time? At the same, you see the beginning of the line and the end of the line, all because you're looking at it from above. You have a view that's three-dimensional while you're looking at something two-dimensional, right? And so if there was a creature traveling on that line, then they can only experience one part of that line at a time until they reach the end of that line. But you, from above, know where the creature started, like the ant crawling on the line. You know where it started, you know how much progress it's made, and you know what's left in front of it. Because you have the three-dimensional view, isn't it? Now there's four-dimension. Now there's five. And Allah is in the ghaib, in a dimension above ours. Right? And He sees us, and He sees where we started, and He sees where we're going. All of it, He doesn't have to wait to see it. He sees all of it at once. Allah has the full view, all at once. So He's not waiting for Judgment Day to see how it plays out. He can describe it as if it has already happened. So from God's perspective, it's already been fulfilled. كَانَ وَعْدُهُ مَفْعُولًا. From that perspective. Now I know when some people hear that, they get a little bit depressed. Well, if it's already been decided, then what am I going to do then? What's the point of doing anything? God knows everything. I don't know. It's already, I love that for you. I love that for you. That Allah knows everything, therefore you have vacation. Right? And this logic, I could never, this was never a problem for me. Predestination was never a problem. I studied philosophy and it was never a problem for me. The reason it wasn't a problem for me is I get upset. And that's enough reason for me to know predestination doesn't work the way we think about it. You know why? Because if I threw this at your face, you would get upset. And you're not going to say, well, this was qadr of Allah, it's already maf'ul. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did it. You're going to look at me like, hey man, what'd you do that for? Why are you getting upset with me? And as soon as you're done being upset with me, then you say, I have a problem with al-qada wal-qadr. Bro, you just a second ago didn't have a problem with al-qada wal-qadr. You said I was qadir. You said it's my choice. I did this to you. And then you say you have no choice. So I have choice and you don't have choice? Which way you want to go? Right? And then, of course, now atheists, because they're discussing consciousness, they're like, it's just physics. There's just subatomic particles bouncing off against each other and neurons are firing. We don't control physics. I can't control electrons and neutrons. Ha! Quarks are way too small for me to control. Therefore, all of us in this existence are just science, but we don't really have any control. Then why do you want to get paid for your lecture? Because that wasn't under your control. And because if the people that recorded your lecture and don't want to pay you for your appearance, Mr. Atheist, they'll just say it was physics. Right? Why are you holding anybody accountable? It doesn't work. But at the same time, we acknowledge something about Allah. Allah sees what we cannot see. Allah can see the future and show it to us. And that's why perhaps when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam hears about these ayat, he knows something about Allah. That Allah does not describe something that is going to happen. As far as Allah is concerned, it's a reality. He is the ultimate reality. He sees all reality. And so he can fall unconscious from the overwhelming truth that is presented to him in these ayat, even when somebody else is reciting it. Right? So كَانَ وَعْدُهُ مَفْعُولًا. His promise has already been acted upon. This was from Allah's perspective. But now from a human perspective. From a human perspective, kana actually means guarantee. Kana can be used in the meaning of guarantee. So what that would mean is, have you ever heard someone say, consider it done? It's as good as done, right? That means because the word done is in the past. And nothing is more guaranteed than the past. The future is uncertain, but the past has no doubts. What's already happened is absolute. So when people want to give a guarantee about the future, the ultimate guarantee is consider it done. The word done is about the past. Well, I want you to think about the future as guaranteed as you think about the past. And that's why they say consider it done. And that's the word maf'ul. His promise is absolutely guaranteed. And the promise of Judgment Day is absolutely guaranteed. That's the phrasing that's being used. Kana wa'duhu maf'ula. Hey guys, you just watched a small clip of me explaining the Quran in depth as part of the Deeper Look series. Studying the Quran in depth can seem like a really intimidating thing that's only meant for scholars. Our job at Bayyinah is to make deeper study of the Quran accessible and easy for all of you. So take us up on that challenge. Join us for this study, the deeper look of the Quran, for this surah and many other surahs on BayyinahTV.com under the Deeper Look section.